Hi, all right. Last video about advanced Adobe Camera Raw processes. So let's dive right in. We're going to talk about presets and profiles, how to synchronize your adjustment settings across different images, how to save your changes if you're working with the JPEG or TIFF as opposed to RAW file format. Talk a little bit about this thing called Enhance, and then lastly we'll finish up with something like a way to quickly export images from Adobe Camera Raw into another finalized format, like say JPEG. Okay, so here we are. So the first thing is, let's talk about presets. So I'm going to open up these three images at the top into Adobe Camera Raw from Bridge. And the first thing I want to do is talk about the difference between where presets are and where profiles are. So profiles are right at the top of your editing window, right above the basic. And profiles can be set to any number of different ones, but there's some classic ones. There's the Adobe Color, Landscape, Portrait, Standard, Vivid, and there's also the Camera Standard, which should be trying to pull however your camera is setting its color rendering settings and contrast, and it should hold on to those rather than so that Adobe Camera Raw isn't changing the way your color is being set from your camera. So it's like keeping it the same. If you don't see Camera Standard, well, first thing is this little window here, the little square, will actually pop you into more of a full screen where you can look at all these different effects. And what's nice is you could go into Adobe Raw and you can just mouse over them and it'll make a preview here in the main window for you. So you can kind of like, this is kind of like catalog shopping. You can open up these different folders. You can look at the different how these different settings. And so you have the classic ones like the Adobe Raw, your camera matching one. Favorites is basically any ones that you've starred that they'll show up in your favorites. So what I mean by starred is if you go into artistic here, you'll see that there's, if I mouse over one, there's a little star at the top corner. If I click on that, then it will hold on to that one. So if I have a particular one that I like the color of, say maybe I like this one, Artistic 5, I can click on that. And then when I do that, it'll show up here, right there. There's my Artistic 5. So, and if I go click on the back button, then I go back to this normal view, if anything that is in this window, those are my favorites. Now, I believe there's standard ones like the Adobe ones. Well, I guess you can turn some of these off. So if you don't want to see some of these Adobe ones in the favorites, you can go and click several of these, and then they won't show up anymore. So those are the profiles. But here's one thing to notice about profiles, and let me pick a very obvious one, like one that really has we'll go to the artistic one. So maybe the vintage. So here, this is a very different look. So I'm going to click on this. When I go back, it will be set up. Here it says Profile Vintage 3. Notice something. All of my sliders are still zeroed out, okay? It has changed the color rendering, but it has not changed all these individual developed settings that I have at my ability to change. Now, let's look at, you can't make it's possible to make your own profiles, but you have to dig a little deeper in order to do that. You can't create those through this interface. Now let's go to something called presets, and those are over here. And I'm going to go to this image which has not been adjusted. It does no profile attached. So I'm going to click on this, and the first thing we see a whole bunch of categories or bins of different ones. Black and white, creative, color. So let's go into the creative one. And if I mouse over them, you will see that they are different. There's different effects, right? So let's just pick on one that is unique. So maybe we'll do this cool light one. I'm going to click on that. And if I click the star again, I start making a favorites list up here. So they're easier for me to find. Okay, that's all that is. I'm going to double click on that. And then if I go back to my develop settings up here, take a look at what's going on here. You can see I've changed vibrance, saturation, clarity, whites. So this has made an adjustment for me in my develop settings. So that's one of the fundamental differences between presets and profiles. Presets actually are adjustments that are being made to the develop settings. Profiles are more like a color rendering shift, and that it doesn't impact these. Another thing to notice is you can't have more than one preset applied at a time. If I come in to my presets again and now click soft mist, I'm only going to have soft mist applied. I don't, it's either one or the other. I can't have multiple ones. However, you can have, I'm just gonna let's go back and maybe go to my cool light one again. However, you can have a preset and you can also have a profile attached. So I can come here and I can go to my color camera standard. Okay, I have my camera standard and I have my cool light preset. So both of these are activated, and basically what presets really is doing is just changing all the sliders for you all at one time. So it's not going to, it's not so much that it's on or off. It's once you apply it, then it adjusts all the sliders. So be a little cautious of that. If you spend a bunch of time editing your basic develop settings and you come in and apply a preset, it's going to change them all. Now you can always go to edit. I believe you can go to edit, undo, or Command Z. So if you don't like what's happening there, you can step back, right? So now you can create your own presets. So let me click done, for example, and I let's say here this image I've edited it and I like this look. It's a little bit intense, I know, but I like this. What I can do is I can go to my presets, I can click new, and I can say duotone pink and teal, something like that. And I'll put them, it asks me which preset I want. I could make specifically named groups, but now I'll just go with user presets. It asks me, this is a lot of checkboxes here, but this is asking me what components of all the develop settings do I want to remember and apply to this preset. So if you just want the basic things, you could just click the basics and unclick all of these others. If you want everything, you can click everything. So that's up to you. So you can make it very, very precise and very detailed, or you can make it very simple. And one thing that one of the reasons that presets exist is if you're always, it's something out of utility. If you're always doing the same thing to a bunch of images, you're applying a certain amount of exposure change, you're increasing your contrast, whatever. If you're doing those things, well, and you want to apply those to all your images, you can do that. You don't have to like sit there and adjust your sliders constantly for each image, right? We're trying to make it easier and more productive. So now that I've made that preset, I can come back to my other images that I was playing around with before. And now I can take this first image and I can apply the preset that I just made. So I'm going to go down to, let's close some of these up. So I can go down the bottom to user presets and my duotone pink and teal. So now I've applied that preset to this new image, okay, by making my own preset. Now, that's really interesting, corn silo. I'd like to show you something else. and that is how to synchronize settings. So let's say you've spent some time with maybe with this photo, I've made some adjustments. It can be a whole host of things. You can make localized adjustments like gradient filter, something like that. If I wanted to bring in a little bit more color, color in this case in the sky. But once I've happy with this, I've got these two other images are very similar. So if I'd like to apply those same settings to this, it's very easy for me to synchronize the settings across multiple images, okay? Now I have to have all those images opened up at the same time in Adobe Camera Raw, and that's why I opened up 3 here and not just 1. So I wanna click on my primary image, and then I wanna hold down my either Command button to select any of the other images that I want to synchronize, or to do it more quickly, I can just hold down the Shift and then click to the other end of my images, right? So you can see that there's 2 different levels here. The brightest one is the one that's highlighted to take the settings from, and then these will receive the settings. And I have these little 3 icons here, and we're looking for this icon on the left with the little circular arrows. So I click on that, we get something similar. It looks very similar to the presets window. But what's this asking me to do is like, what do you want to synchronize? Do you only want to synchronize, say, if you just wanted to synchronize saturation, you could turn everything off. And these subsets, you can create custom ones as well. If there's certain ones you always want to click on, you can create a custom set. But right now, it's also helpful if I want to turn them all off. And if I just wanted to, say, do the basic tabs, I could just do that. And if, for example, I had made the adjustment to the sky, if I, with the graduated filter, if I didn't want the graduated filter to affect, see local adjustments, graduated filters. If I didn't want that, then I could unclick it. But I'll go ahead and keep that on, and I'll say, okay. And when I do that, what happens is both of these images now have the same settings here applied to them, okay? So I've got, you can see, well, I'm in my graduated filter, but let's go the regular the basics. And the basics, I haven't really honestly done that much to them, but I also have the graduated filter applied at the top. Now, one of the differences, the reason why these aren't all the same is because I have not applied the same profile to all of them. Now, the profile is not something that I can synchronize over here, but what I can do is I can select as many of these pictures over on the right as I want to, and I can come to the profile, and I can do, in this case, I think I did the vintage. Nope, I didn't do the vintage. I did do the vintage. Let's see, vintage 03. Well, that looks correct. Let's do vintage, vintage 03, that's what it was. So I need to go and find vintage 03 there, maybe make it one of my favorites. And now I can come over here and I can apply vintage 03. And now you see all of my images look pretty similar. Some of them don't have the exact same exposure setting, but that's how we synchronize our settings. That's also how we can apply profiles to more than one image at a time. We just select them over here in the film strip. And so it's one of the reasons why the film strip's great. You can open up probably, I would try to keep it to don't open more than 50 images at a time, or at least test that out and how with your system works. You don't want to overtax your system. Okay, great. So let's go and check out. I want to talk to you about JPEGs. We talked earlier in another session about how Adobe Camera Raw handles JPEGs, and of course, you can change the way it opens JPEGs by going into the workflow. So these 3 images all come from this one raw file here. I've given them some slightly different development settings, but remember, if I come in here in Adobe Camera Raw to my Camera Raw preferences and go to file handling. I can choose how Adobe Camera Raw opens up JPEGs. And I have it set to say automatically open JPEGs and HICs with settings. So any of my images that I've already opened once in Adobe Camera Raw, it will automatically open. So this one will not automatically open into Adobe Camera Raw because it's never been adjusted. I'll have to force open it by going File, Open in Camera Raw. This image, which I've already made, obviously I've made some adjustments to it because it's pink and teal, and you can see the icon up here. That one, if I double click on it, will automatically return to Adobe Camera Raw because it knows it, in the metadata of the JPEG file, it's seen that it's made some adjustments. So, but I want to show you something that's going to kind of be a little confusing. So what I want to do next is I want to show you, here's my window of this same folder. And what I want to show you is here is the original image, the raw file format. Here is my copy, which is this one. And we'll get to the enhanced one, but I also have this other one down here, just the regular JPEG. So I have the JPEG, and then I have the copy JPEG. And here's the thing, this regular 2070, you expect it to look like this. Here's the preview. But this copy, the copy here in Adobe Camera Raw is pink. But in my normal Apple operating system, it's still showing it as this kind of classic sunset and not affected. The reason why the colors do not apply and the operating system does not see them is because when Adobe Camera Raw makes a change, so if I open this into Adobe Camera Raw and I've made these changes, especially in the not the black and white mixer, but the color grading, and made these adjustments, it saves that information. When I come down here and click done, it saves that information inside the metadata of the actual JPEG, okay? But only Adobe software knows that it's there and can access it and can visualize that change. The other thing that's good about that, well, that's maybe not so great, but so what do you do if you actually want to make that, now it's a JPEG and I wanted to share that with a friend, if I just took this file here and I sent it to my friend, it would not look pink and teal. It would just show up like this and you would be disappointed. So if you want to do that, remember what you need to do is you need to come into Adobe Camera Raw, or you should be able to, this should work here in the export settings if you have an export preset in Bridge, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this, how to do a very similar thing in Adobe Camera Raw. I have my file open. If I want to export this so that it's ready and I could send it and it will be received this way, I can go to this little icon here. It says convert and save image. I can also do that right up here, right on the image. And when I do that, I get save options. And I'm just gonna make this to be copy to, so it's clear what it is. It's going to the same folder. It's a JPEG file. I'm not gonna change the color space, keep it in Adobe. I'm not gonna really change it. I'm gonna go ahead and click save, and it's gonna export that. Let's go ahead and click done. Now you can see if I go down to the bottom here, I've got my second copy too. So let's see if we go to the Finder. Now you'll see I have my copy too, and you'll see that it is in fact pink. And so now what Adobe has done is it made a new copy of that JPEG. And when it made a new copy of it, it rewrote the previews that I've been working up in Adobe Camera Raw, and it rewrote that as a new separate file. And now that is no longer that simulation of the colors that I added is not just in metadata, but now it's actually part of the pixel data, and it actually changed the pixel information. Okay, so a couple other things I wanted to show you. Earlier I made this enhanced image. This is a DNG. A DNG is another type of raw file format, and it's actually one that Adobe created. And one of the advantages of DNG is they don't have sidecar files. So if you look at my folder over here of all of my raw captures, you'll notice there's a lot of XMP files, and those are my metadata. They're sort of like metadata files, but they're all the instructions or settings that I've been developing in Adobe Camera Raw for a particular file. So it's named the exact same file name as the original capture. But anytime I've made a change to that, it's going to note it and create in that XMP file. So a DNG file has no sidecar XMP file because all of that information is housed within the file structure itself. So at any point, if you want to convert all your raw files to DNG files, that's always a possibility. You could do that. But enhanced is a new feature, relatively new feature in Adobe Camera Raw. And what it is, and I'll just open up this image. What it is you can either do this by clicking on one particular film strip image and going down to enhance, or you can come over here to this little ... when your image is pulled up, and you can go to enhance. And what it is it says enhance uses machine learning to improve image quality. The results will be saved as a new DNG image, and it automatically basically tries to improve the resolution and the detail of your image. There's another thing that it can also do, which is the super resolution. And what super resolution does is it doubles the linear pixels in both directions. So it effectively would take like a 20 megapixel image and turn it into an 80 megapixel image. It's machine learning, so it's not the same thing as optical capture on a sensor. But they claim that it's better, I guess, than increasing your pixel count just in Photoshop alone. So this is something that you may be interested in, and you can look into it. And that's all I've got to share with you in this session. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching.